Welcome back to the year 1985 as we continue our look at the Voltron, Defender of the Universe toy line by Matchbox. Previously, we covered a brief history of Vehicle Voltron and its three teams, as well as the three unique fighters their vehicles combine into. We started with the Land Team and the Turbo Terrain Fighter. Then we looked at the Sea Team and the Aqua Fighter. And today, we'll be taking a look at the Air Team and the Strato-Fighter, here on Part 3 of the KREED'S Collection Christmas Special. Hey, Merry Christmas Eve and welcome to Part 3 of the second annual KREED'S Collection Christmas Special. Today we are looking at the Air Team and the Strato-Fighter from the 1985 toy line Voltron, Defender of the Universe by Matchbox. The Air Team is comprised of vehicles number 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and we're going to take right off with number 5, piloted by Ginger. Ginger's vehicle is known as the Falcon Jet Fighter, and it forms the chest plate of Voltron. She is strong and brave, and she fights for the honor of her family, who tragically perished in an accident when she was very young. The Falcon Jet Fighter is my absolute favorite vehicle in the entire Voltron vehicle force. I played with this one way more than I did any of the other vehicles, if you exclude the number 1 ship, which we're going to get to here in just a bit. But can you blame me for loving this ship so much? I mean, look at this thing. It's super sleek, aerodynamic. It's got a cool color scheme. I just love it. Now, it also has wheels here on the bottom. The front one is plastic and it's freewheeling. These back ones are rubber and they have a friction motor, but unfortunately, it just doesn't roll very well. That's okay though, because I don't think I ever once pretended like this thing was rolling. I always had it flying around. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Type number 4 and its pilot Chip, and the Type number 3 and the pilot Wolo. Chip flies the advanced Recon helicopter, which forms the left shoulder of Voltron, and he is Pidge's twin brother, who is the pilot of the Green Lion from the Voltron Lion Force. And just like Pidge, Chip is the brains of the Voltron vehicle force. Now, being Pidge's twin brother, you'd think Chip would be featured a lot more on the show, but unfortunately, he's kind of a background character. Just like Wolo, who pilots the Type 3, which is also known as the Advanced Recon Helicopter, and he forms the right shoulder of Voltron. At least with Wolo, they have a pretty good reason why he's not featured. His character is very quiet and introspective, so he's not really front and center. Now, you may have noticed that the Air Team has less duplicate vehicles than the Sea Team and the Land Team, with only the Advanced Recon helicopters being duplicates of each other. So the Air Team has 4 unique vehicles versus 3 unique vehicles in the Sea and Land Teams. I really appreciate that they painted the windshields on the 2 choppers here, and I wish they would have done that with the 2 Sea Team vehicles that lacked it. I assume the reason they skipped it on the Sea Team vehicles is because when you form Voltron, that part folds up and you don't see it. The rotors do spin on the Advanced Recon choppers, and the wheels are actually rubber and freewheeling. They don't have a friction motor, so basically they just roll like a Hot Wheels car. And the other chopper's the same. The rotor spins freely, and it's got the rubber wheels, and it also rolls pretty well. Now, also right here on the end of the chopper, there is a joint. It's a point of articulation, and that is actually the elbow of Voltron. And I'll show that off more when we get to Part 4. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the Type 2, piloted by Rocky. Rocky pilots the Strato weapon module, which forms the upper torso or chest of Voltron. Rocky speaks with an Italian accent, and he loves to eat. And in his academy days, he used to spar with his old buddy Hunk, who went on to be the pilot of the Yellow Lion in the Voltron Lion Force. The Strato weapon module was one of the vehicles that I found kind of odd when I was a kid. I mean, any of the pieces that form the torso were a little strange, because they're basically just rectangles with wheels. A far cry from Ginger's Falcon Jet Fighter, which very obviously looks like a cool spaceship. Now right here, these used to be some type of missile launcher, but just like the Voltron Lion Force that was sent over from Japan previously, they removed them due to American safety standards. Now right here, this is a door that you flip open and in, and that's part of the Voltron transformation, and the release mechanism is right there on that red button for that. As we flip it around to the bottom, you can see 2 yellow buttons here and here, and those are for releasing the advanced Recon choppers when you plug them into the sides. Now getting back to the wheels here, the first 3 are plastic and they're freewheeling. This last one is rubber and it's got the friction motor in it, but unfortunately, like all the rest, it doesn't really work very well. But that's okay because I rarely rev these friction motors up anyway, and it was a feature I almost never used. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Type 1, piloted by Jeff. Jeff pilots the Command Jet Explorer, which forms the head of Voltron. Jeff is not only the leader of the air team, he's also the leader of the entire Voltron vehicle force. He's extremely headstrong and known to break rules, but he's also a great fighter, pilot, and an extremely capable leader. Back in Jeff's academy days, he had a friendly rivalry with Keith, who we all know is the leader of the Voltron Lion Force and flies the Black Lion. The Command Jet Explorer is my second favorite ship in the entire set, and quite often I would have missions with Ginger and Jeff going off on their own, since I liked playing with those two the most. Now right here on top are the doors that open to reveal Voltron's face, but we'll cover that more in part 4. And here on the bottom there are tires that are made out of rubber, and they also have a friction motor in the back like most of the rest. And while you can see it works a bit better, I'd still hardly call it great. But again, this was a ship I always just flew around anyway, so the wheels were redundant. Alright, let's do this. It's time to form the Strato-Fighter. So fold these 2 guns in, push that down, turn the tread sideways. There you go. Next step, you want to get the head and go ahead and stick it in right there. You go, just like that. Then you take each of the choppers and plug them into the side. Okay, there we go. Now you have to flip out these tabs on the bottom of the Falcon Fighter. That's what attaches it to the top of the Strato-Fighter. But I'm actually not going to tab it in since those plastic tabs are kind of old, and I'm afraid they'll break if I keep popping them in and out. So I'm just going to set it on top, and behold, the Strato-Fighter. Like the Turbo Terrain Fighter and the Aqua Fighter, the Strato-Fighter has heavier armaments and weaponry when combined in this mode. Basically, it's a flying battleship ready for action, and my second favorite fighter of the fighters. Unfortunately, the Aqua Fighter is my least favorite. But it's really a tie for first place, because even though the Turbo Terrain Fighter is my favorite visually, I played with the Strato-Fighter the most. In this mode, there are no extra features, but it does have the treads on the bottom here, so you can roll it around. But, you know, once again, as a flying vehicle, I rarely ever rolled it. So again, the wheels kind of redundant, but I do appreciate them being there in case I wanted to display it in this mode. That way it actually looks like it has landing gear. And in summation, I just want to say that the Strato-Fighter, like the other 2 fighters, is amazing looking and an excellent use of the ships beyond just forming Voltron. Now we're going to check out the copyright info on one of them since they're all the same. Of course, this is Type 1, as you can see in the upper left corner there, and it was made in Japan, 1982. And now for our He-Man size comparison. He-Man is quite a bit bigger than the Strato-Fighter, but if he had to fight them, he better make sure he's got the Wind Raider, or I feel like he'd have little chance against the air team. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my toy retrospective for the Strato-Fighter from the 1985 toy line, Voltron, Defender of the Universe by Matchbox. Remember, this is only part 3 of 4 of the KREED'S Collection Christmas Special. Part 4 will be tomorrow, Christmas Day, as we take a look at Voltron himself. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up. And if you have any thoughts, please leave a comment. I love reading and responding to them. And while you're at it, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it, and it would help my channel grow. I do a retrospective on a toy from my vintage collection every Wednesday. So hope to see you tomorrow, Christmas Day, here on KREED'S Collection.